So it's often difficult to determine whether something that you've written down is actually a strategic objective, an operational objective, whether it's tactical or strategic. Now, there's no hard rule to do this, but I'll give you some guidelines that you might be able to apply in your organization. The net concept is something like this, that a strategic objective has to have some sort of threshold of importance. In your organization, that may have to do with how closely it's tied to the mission, vision, values. It may have to do with how long it takes to accomplish that objective or how complicated it is. But here's one thing that you can sort of look at. If it takes too little time to do it, chances are it's more tactical than strategic. And in fact, if you think of the drumbeat of your business, how fast your organization needs to move, that may be a few months or even a few quarters becomes tactical. Also, if you have work on that activity and has little impact on the overall success of the organization, might be more tactical than strategic. So if we take a look at those two aspects as axis on a graph, on the left we'll put the blue, the criticality. What does the impact on the mission of that objective or idea have? And across the bottom, what's the timeline? When can you expect to create an impact on the organization? And the concept would be, in the lower left corner, that would be fairly tactical. If it has little criticality and is pretty easy to do, sorting out your desk, that kind of thing. Operational is sort of midterm and medium. And then in the top right corner is something that's potentially strategic. It has high criticality and takes a fair amount of time to accomplish. That may be a way to take a look at threshold of importance. So let's use a client example. This client is worried about illegal cigarettes and how it's diluting their brand. So we take a look at some of their objectives. In the top right corner of high criticality and a fair amount of time is overall how do they protect the brands and the overall business. Perhaps slightly less critical and easier to do is how do we change consumers' behavior so they tend not to want to use illegal cigarettes. Curb availabilities of illicit cigarettes is more critical, but not so hard to do in terms of elapsed time. And so the objectives can begin to get plotted across this axis. And for the purposes of conversation, as you get towards the bottom left, they're more tactical, and towards the top right, they're more strategic. So that may help us determine which ones should appear on a strategy map or not. By the time they'd finished the analysis, they ended up with a strategy map that looked a bit like this, whereas you can see some of the highly strategic topics ended up across the top, and some of the operational and tactical tactics have been removed from the list, and others were uncovered, like stakeholder engagement, push for enforcement, and so forth.